Hello everyone, Burb here. I want to complete these summer banner characters despite all the craziness that's happening right now, so let's talk about Gold Ship Summer. I'll be doing this in the same way as I normally do, first talking about the banner briefly and then getting right into the character. For the banner, note that this is a double banner. If you enjoy McQueen Summer as well as Gold Ship Summer, you have added value because you can use the pity for the character that you did not pull within the 200. It's not wasted as in a single banner character does. Other than that, Gold Ship Summer is a fun character that unlocks a side quest for your account. Now, the side quest can be used in both team trials and it can be used in Champions Meeting, although it is slightly inefficient in Champions Meeting outside of the use of debuffers. Most people have only thought of this character as a debuffer because it does enable debuffers to get an additional debuff outside of where they normally can be, which we will talk about. But as an ace, if you enjoy Gold Ship and you want a little more fun than Anchors Away, it's hard to recommend because Anchors Away is such a powerful skill on end closers, but Gold Ship's ultimate is a guaranteed proc at the end of the day. Now, it is technically inefficient because you have to spend skill points to actually go and activate her ultimate, I suppose. You can kind of consider it a Christmas Oguri situation, but the power with her ultimate is you can bring in skills from other tracks and distances or from other roles and put them either on the horses you inherit or on herself and then go, and that adds additional value to the ultimate. But that again costs skill points. So the ultimate is technically inefficient, but it is actually quite fun. Also note that because of the random proc nature of this can also screw up your builds too. So there's just a lot of randomness you're adding to your account. If you are wanting quite a bit of fun, that is what this character offers. We're going to talk about her in team trials. We're going to talk about her in the debuffer meta as well as her as an ace herself. But let's get right into it and talk about Gold Ship Summer. For Aptitudes, Gold Ship Summer is the same as Gold Ship. She's meant to be a medium-long track runner on turf as an end closer, but because of the flexibility of the character, you can push her into late and pace chaser, and through the nature of her ultimate, you could honestly do it and be just fine because any skills that you have, you can just move to the various different roles that you want. Now, for the mile distance as well, you have mile C, you can put her in mile. Now, she does have a medium skill and a long skill, but again, those are just suggestions, but there's nothing really in her account that's really binding her to the end closer role. Now, her bonuses are the best bonus structure in the game, in my opinion. 10% wit, 20% power basically means a pure speed wit deck, or when we get into Grand Live, speed wit light hello is going to be incredibly powerful because power is very hard to generate, and you want to go and generate your power from your speed taps. Now your wit taps, this is going to help just a tiny bit when you press the wit button and the amplification, but very strong. If you've ever played Measure Orion, you know that you basically get 1200 power for free when you're running these high speed wit decks. As for the ultimate, or the unique, this is really where the bread and butter of this character is. 564 Escapades says slightly increased velocity sometime in the second half of the race. If you've got any cool rare skills lying around, go ahead and activate 2 regardless of their conditions. It's on the house. And it's really simple. The activation condition for this is guaranteed, which is one of the few guaranteed uniques that we've had. It will proc. That's what it's saying. Now, when it will proc is distance rate after random 50, which means it picks a random point in the race, granulated in meters, I believe, and 50% or later, it will go and decide to proc. Now, if you go at that point, you will go, I guess I did a bunch of math here. Note that there is 12 sections, 13 through 24, in the second half of the race, okay? So there's a bunch of different sections that this kind of morphs what is going to happen when her ultimate procs. 13 through 16, no matter what map it is, we're going to talk via sections because those are stretched based on distance, based on the length of the track. 13 through 16 is prior to the final spurt, which means that it's basically mid-race at that point. There is that sweet spot in the middle where you have speed carryover on section 16. Section 17 and part of section 18 is in the acceleration zone. Section 19 through 22 is in the late race, and 23 and 24 usually will get partially clipped, and her ultimate can proc in any of these sections. And basically, if you are trying to proc velocity skills, 9 out of the 12 sections you will get full effectiveness with. You can do section 13, 14, or 15, the second half of 18, 19, 20, 21, or 22, and you'll get full value from the velocity skill. You get greater value from speed carryover if the random point decides to be section 16, and it gets eaten by the excel zone if it decides to proc in section 17, and 23 and 24 have reduced value because you will be clipped by the end of the race. Basically, the duration will extend because these are gold skills into the point after the goal line. So that's effectiveness in general is roughly around 75%. For acceleration skills, you are super gambling. If you're taking gold acceleration skills, really you are basically on the acceleration leak timing of section 16 or the perfect proc acceleration timing of section 17. Anywhere else, and your acceleration is not really doing too much. You can consider uphill being a slight one because of the uphill release, but honestly, it's very, very risky to take acceleration gold skills on this character because two things. First of all, you want them to proc in the late race, and all of a sudden all of this time is basically possibly whiffing your ultimate, your late race excels, and also that there really is only this time. Now note, if it was going to proc over here, it wasn't getting value anyways, so I guess don't dissuade it. There's only 4 sections out of 6, so 2 out of 3 times it will brick your run rather than the rest of it. And it's actually less than that, actually, since it's only, let's say, half the time. So it's really 1 out of 3 times it's going to brick, and then it's going to super high roll proc, I guess, the other 2 sections. If you win, you are procking this ultimate, it does have innate speed, so you will get a 0.155 second duration ultimate, which is worse than gold chip ult. It is basically a half anchors away from base gold chip because gold chip base is 0.2546 seconds, but it is still a nice little bonus that because you are using an ultimate, so you're not just doing the secondary effect, which is using random rare skills. Now you ignore all the conditions on this, so you can proc a late race skill in the mid race, you can proc a long skill on a medium track, you can proc a pace chaser skill as a end closer, you can go and proc a front half of the pack skill in the back half of the pack. It does not matter what its conditions are. 564 escapades will go and cause you to proc 2 of these skills at random that are still in the pool. Now, what you can't do is double proc skills. If you were to proc Daring Strike, and Daring Strike does not have a cooldown, and then you proc 564, Daring Strike is no longer in the pool, which means that you cannot proc Daring Strike again if you have already procced it. There's many ways that you can keep it in the pool. The main one is being you missed the wit check. It remains in the pool when you miss the wit check, and 564 escapades can go and still choose it at that point. So there's no double procking of skills. This is really, really important for those making debuffs and understanding what's going on, and for those fighting against debuffs and understanding that you will not be hit by double Dominator from one character. What you will do is you will grab Dominator and Keen Eye mainly, and those will basically make it so that you have 2 different skills that you can choose, one of them being from the distance itself, like medium, and the other one is pulled up from the other one. Now, this only works if debuffers are running only these gold skills for this, and it's still not 100% effectiveness. And the reason is that Dominator can proc in the final leg itself. This is just an example. The same thing happens with Keen Eye in the early race, except on Miles, it's 100%. So on Miles, you will go and you will grab Keen Eye. On the Keen Eye characters, it'll proc in the early race, and then for the rest of it, the 564 will grab the Dominator. So they do have 100% effectiveness to add a additional skill. These debuffers do on Miles. On mediums with Dominator, it's a little bit more complicated. It's not too much, but I wanted to add a little bit of math in the video. So basically, if you take and break it down through sections, 13 through 17 basically is a 50-50, whether it chooses Keen Eye or Dominator. These I'm granulating to 1 per section, which does technically make it a little less accurate, but I wasn't going to do too much math. Basically, from 18, 19, and 20, these last three sections in the final leg, Dominator can randomly proc at a random point in the final leg. Now, note that you basically are choosing a 50-50 if it hasn't procced yet, and if it has procced, you have a 100% chance. So at 18, we look at section 17, and it has a 1 in 4 chance to have chosen a time in section 17. So in that 1 in 4, you have a guaranteed proc of Keen Eye. In those 3 of 4s, you have a 50-50 chance because it could just decide to choose Dominator, and Keen Eye is never procced. If the same thing happens in 19, except now you have section 17 and 18, these two sections have a 50% chance of having Dominator procced already. And then at that point, you have a 50-50 chance at the other 50% if Dominator chose a later time versus if Keen Eye chose as well. The same thing with 20, only as 3 out of 4, and 21 through 24, if Gold Ship Summer Ultimate 564 decides to proc in the last spurt, Dominator will have already procced, assuming the conditions have met. I haven't even talked about being in the back half of the pack as well. And at that point, you will basically just grab it no matter what. So adding all this together, you basically add the effective rate times the number of occurrences, which is the number of sections. So for 5 sections, it's a 50-50, and then you have 62.5, 75, 87.5, and a full 100% on the last 4 sections, divided by the 12 total sections, and you get a 72.91% hit rate, or a 27.1% whiff rate, assuming that you are meeting the conditions of Dominator the entirety of the final leg, and you have 0 other gold skills. Woo math. So even if you go and you grab this on mediums, this is the kind of weird situation. 1 out of every 4 times, you will not be hit by 2 different debuffs. You will only be hit by a singular Dominator. If you also go and you take undesired late race gold skills or gold skills that just happen to proc in the second half, 564 can whiff in the same way as this Dominator. If there are additional gold skills that are in the pool, it can choose them to, rather than the ones that you choose yourselves. If you're a debuffer, this pretty much means if you're doing this strategy, you cannot really make a hybrid because you're not going to have the gold skills to go and meet up with the rest of the pack. So these are 4 pure debuffers for speed debuffers in particular. As well. If you go and take, for example, let's say on your left is an example, you are basically doing the same whiff rate because on your left will proc at the same time as Dominator. If you take stuff like IBAM, it's even higher because it procs in the last spurt. So the more late race skills you proc, the more that this whiff rate does increase. Okay, that's basically what this is. In team trials, she's a rather powerful character for 2 reasons. The main one is that just 564 as an inherit, did I even talk about the inherit yet? No, I haven't yet. But as an inherit or as herself, she basically has a second wit check on all of her gold skills that are in the first half of the race. So if you go and you have any gold skills that miss their wit check in the first half, they're still in the pool, and then you can go and 564 can just grab them as well and still give you the team trials points. Remember, you get the points from the ultimate as well as the points from the skills that are proccing with it. And having your ultimate proc 100% of the time in team trials is really powerful because the ultimate is worth so many points. As an inherit, you can go and inherit this on pretty much any of your team trials characters, and it's the same thing happens. It's an additional wit check, it's a guaranteed skill, and it goes from there. If you really want to try in mid-racks and you have a ton of skill points, this is what I think the top team trials people are going to do. Don't quote me on this, but you can just go and add add 1 or 2 of the gold skills that you wouldn't normally take for the distance or for the roll that are 120 skill points, and you can kind of just put them on the character and you'll get the points for them. A really funny one, I think, is taking the lead on a non-frontrunner because it's only 240 skill points, and, it can still high roll proc your acceleration 1 out of every, 12 times, so it's still a 0.4 acceleration, and that is rather fun. If you try this in team trials, or if you try this in Champions Meeting, do that at your own risk. It's technically a 0.4 acceleration with a 1 out of 12 proc time, so it's kind of funny. Same thing with stuff like Determined Descent and 15 mil, the cheap 120 skill point skills. You can go and move on to different roles. For her careers and events. This is a gold ship. If you don't know gold ships, her big thing is, first of all, 3rd place or better in the Tenno Show Spring is a little bit tough. Otherwise, she is a Kikuka Show 3rd place, a Tenno Show 3rd place, and a Rima Keenan victory. So it's a true long career. Does not have to win like Narita Bryan, but basically the second hardest type of career that you can have. Her secret event is still the double Takarazaku Keenan, which is the what is it, 12 billion yen incident. If you go and complete the 12 billion yen incident, you can choose to gamble on getting gate kept, or you can just go and take the mood and power and all stats instead. But if you're a gambler, you can try to get gate kept, and it does technically turn into focus. I believe I'm not 100% on that. For other events and skills, you have the 2 gold chip skills. You have the really funny 50-50 on Slacker and breaking your run versus 60 skill points and non-standard distance hinting. That is back enabled now that we are in Unity 2.0, and it will be enabled in Grand Live, as well as you have the Hanshin Race Course top-down choice option for gold chip. Her skin, the summer skin, has the summer runner top option hint versus power. Unfortunately, they changed this event from a fast learner event on base gold chip to a practice perfect event. So you lose that additional fast learner chance for one that is honestly not that great. Practice perfect, I don't particularly think does too much. So that is unfortunate. She is a base fast learner character. She does not have the additional role for it, which was the making or cooking, the cooking event at the resort or whatever it was. Her innate skills are Lucky 7, which is kind of fitting, honestly. Risky Business, which is basically nothing ventured. It is a second half skill that is a 0.25 or 0.45 as a gold, and it is just simply basically a 1 in 6 of uber high rolling speed carryovering, and has like a 30% chance, I believe, of a 0.1 stamina debuff and a 10% chance of a 0.3 stamina debuff. So it is a risky skill that's super cheap, so you probably take this every single time, and it's also quite good to loop onto parents because of how cheap it actually is as well for shorter tracks, of course. After School Stroll is the white version of Go Home Specialist on her base skin. It is just a white recovery, and they changed her Golden 8 skills to Innate Experience and Elated. Note that this long and medium, again, are suggestions. If you're building her as an ace, you can just use 564 and proc these, and these will be in the pool. Elated is a back half medium. It is not the greatest thing in the world, but I believe they moved it to 5th place. So Elated is a little bit better, and as an end closer, you should probably be in the back of the pack at the random point in the mid race where this procs. Otherwise, Innate Experience is a very strong late race skill for longs tracks in particular, and also remember that gold chip can just pull this as a velo skill and just decide to speed carry over it as well. Inner rail, do not worry about that, as we've seen with the Air Shakur video, as well as in CM12 or 11, I believe, the Pisces Cup. Innate Experience procs almost 100% of the time, because on the frame where you go and transfer into the final corner, before you go and start choosing your final lane, you have a singular frame where you are on the inner rail, assuming you are not in an active pass situation, which is very rare, honestly, because you're already past your excel on long. So both these skills are rather strong, and gold chip can move it to whatever distance that you like. But again, 564 is a gamble in it itself. For CM viability, you are gambling. This character, as a base, needs to basically high roll and have her skills go and speed carry over or excel leak into that excel zone. And because it's only 75% effective, basically you're saying 1 out of every 4 times, your ult's not going to do anything, and it has a chance of messing up the skills and the way your character is built. You kind of are gambling if you're choosing gold skills on this character in general that are late race. So stuff like, I don't want to say on your left, but if you have any excels, I guess Corner Con kind of works, because if it wasn't proccing early, it's fine. And maybe that's the way you do it. You take skills that are super high roll gambles, and if they don't proc early, which you would have lost anyways, you have a second chance for gold chip 564 to choose the excel zone as well. But I'm taking an example, neck and neck and on your left, the new buffs that they've had. Gold chip summer can brick it about 1 out of every 4 times, which is very difficult to build a character for CM when basically you're saying 20 of the 80 races, she's not going to have an acceleration at that point. So instead, you probably just go and build a ton of white skills on her that are acceleration. You use your positional-based accelerations like your inherits, and then you go from there. However, remember that base gold chip is one of the best characters in the game. Base gold chip is insane and pretty much good on any track that you can hit the aptitude as well. So Anchors Away is just an incredibly strong mid-race, especially when compared with Daring Strike. This is really much for fun as well as for other various stuff, and regular gold chip is a free-to-play character. So I can't necessarily suggest this as a CM option unless you're just looking to gamble high roll and have some fun. Okay? For her affinity, she has the highest with Measure McQueen at 37, and for the rest of the characters, I'm just going to put a list of the basically a quarter of the staff being above 25. Gold Chip is friends with pretty much everybody. I'm going to grab a drink real quick. So, in conclusion, this is a fun character. Like I said, useful in team trials. If you are a team trials aficionado, you kind of want this ultimate on every single team trials character just because it gives you a second wit check for your gold skills. Other than that, if you're a debuffer player, you can probably just borrow this. You don't really need to pull on this character if you're purely just need to make a debuff, because the whole point of debuffs is that you only run a few runs and you have a debuffer ready. So you just use a borrow for a day. You go and you put Gold Chip Ultimate. You grab your Kenai from your Gold City speed card. You go and you put it on a Dominator debuffer, and GG, you have a ready built debuffer. I don't think you need the character just for making debuffs. If you want to have some fun, you can grab her as an ace. And honestly, I mean, I'm daily pulling, so I hope that she gets on the account because it's going to be quite fun and seeing all the little fun little things you can think about. Like I said, if you're crazy, just gamble with taking the lead on an end closer and see what happens. Yeah. Also, don't worry. Just like the other gold chip, she does commit a felony on her winning animation, so they did keep that in. It's just a different felony. I think this is technically battery. All right, take care, everyone. Burb out.